Well, I gather support for new bills depending on the subject area. For example, if it's an environmental bill, I might go find environmental advocates or environmental justice advocates to support it. If it's a bill around education, I might get teachers or parents or the PTA involved. There's lots of different ways for different people to get involved.
So the way in which you gather support for the bills that you introduce can vary. Oftentimes, if the idea is brought to you by an outside group, that is your base support right there. And there are other groups that they work with to have a robust, support group of individuals or organizations. If it's your idea that you've come up with, or one of your constituents' idea, or one of your staff's idea, then oftentimes you reach out to different organizations that you think would be interested in supporting this particular bill. You discuss it with them, they discuss it with their organization and decide if they want to come on as a support, as a sponsor of the bill, or if they just want to stay off of it altogether.
A lot of debate over a bill takes place mainly in committee. That is where a lot of the work happens. And it's a lot of exchange back and forth between the committee members, and the individuals who are part of the committee staff that are advising the committee on what the bill does and the impacts. And so we want to make sure that when you're going through that process and that debate, that there's an exchange of information, and that as perhaps ideas come up from someone who's analyzing your bill, you treat that as a debate and you understand their point of view, and most often you integrate that into your proposal so that there could be full support for your bill. So it's really through a variety of factors. It's from staff, it's from other assembly members who hear about your idea during committee, and then before you go to the full assembly or the full Senate, you have to hear from everybody else who's in the body. And so it's really a lot about listening and asking people their thoughts of what they think, not so much a debate in the traditional sense that people stand up and speak against each other on the positions, but really have a conversation.
The public can participate in the bill-making process through a number of ways. The most obvious is to write a letter to their assembly member or their state senator, or if it's a constitutional thing, or the governor. Say you want the governor to sign a bill, you can write a letter to the governor. That's the best way to advocate for a particular proposal. Generally speaking, young people have the ability to register to vote in California at 16, and it's really, really important. I always tell my kids, vote always, register to vote. It's the way you get your voice heard.
Well, the difference between conference and concurrence is that in conference committee, you can sit with members of both parties and both houses, and you can try to see if there are differences between the two, and you can come to an agreement. That is a process that doesn't happen actually as frequently in our legislature as perhaps it did in the past. One of the areas where you see that happen a little bit more in the past is regarding budget items and the expenditure plan, because that's one of the biggest things that we do in the legislature, which is to approve our budget for the state. And you used to see a lot of conference. We don't see that very much anymore.